Like most of you, I started out as a car guy. I loved cars and enjoyed the passion of the four-wheel life. But due to circumstances, I shifted my love for cars to a love for motorcycles. Now I still do love and enjoy cars. I actually happen to own a C5 Corvette that I greatly enjoy driving. But in this video, I'm going to explain to you why motorcycles are better and why you should get one over a car. Quick disclaimer, I understand everyone needs a daily driver, especially if you live in the Northeast like me. This list is for those of us that want to get a second vehicle and cannot decide whether you want a sport bike or a sport car. So reason number one is cheaper performance. Okay, so the biggest reason why I got out of cars and into bikes was because of the cost. Cars are really expensive. If you want a rear-wheel drive manual sport car that's no older than 10 years old, then you're going to spend at least 10 grand on it, probably closer to 15 for something decent with lower miles. And actually now with the pandemic pricing, those numbers are probably much higher, and let's face it, at that price you'd be looking to a higher mileage Mustang or a Subaru BRZ. Both of those are fantastic cars, but when you consider the performance of them, motorcycles of comparable costs simply blow it out of the water. For example, according to Kelley Blue Book in my area, a clean title 2012 Mustang GT with around 80,000 miles would cost about $16,500, which sounds about right. Now here are the specs of that Mustang: 5-liter V8, 412 horsepower, 390 foot-pound of torque, and it weighs 3484 pounds, which is a power-to-weight ratio of 8.45 pounds per horsepower rating. The Mustang GT will do 0 to 60 in around 5 seconds and a quarter mile in around 12.9. Now let's compare that to the average bike. If you have $16,500 to work with, then you can get something brand spanking new. In fact, you can get a base model CBR600RR for exactly $16,500 before taxes and fees. Now here are the specs for a brand new CBR600RR. A 1-liter inline-4, 189 horsepower, and 84 foot-pound of torque, and the CBR weighs just 428 pounds, which is a power-to-weight ratio of 2.26 pounds per horsepower rating. A base model CBR600RR does 0 to 60 in just under 3 seconds, and a quarter mile in around 10 seconds flat. So as you can see, a motorcycle is much faster than a car given the same budget. And might I remind you guys that a Mustang is basically a straight line car versus the CBR, which is built for cornering. But I don't believe spending $16,500 is a cheap way to buy a motorcycle. You can get a used bike like a 2012 CBR600RR, which will have mostly similar performance, but for a price as low as 7 grand, maybe even lower. It's harder to argue the value you get when you buy a sport bike over a sports car. Number 2, cheaper and easier to mod and maintain. Again, sticking with our theme of being cheap, motorcycles are cheaper and easier to mod and maintain. There's far less complicated parts on a motorcycle. Have you ever done a tie rod or lower control arm on a car? It's a major pain in the butt, and you also have steering columns, transfer cases, power steering pumps. The whole undercarriage of a car can be a nightmare to deal with, especially if you live in the Northeast and start running into rust issues. Even the well looked after cars up here still rust out in Massachusetts. Not only that, but modding is easier and cheaper. An exhaust and tune on a bike will make a noticeable change in power and can be done for all less than around $1,000. Versus doing those things on a car can be a completely different story. Maybe I just have had bad luck over my years, but working on cars has been a nightmare for me and much more expensive. Also, a lot of the motorcycles out there don't even have check engine lights. Not all of them, but most. Bikes also have better fuel economy, and with gas being nearly $5 a gallon in some places, then it makes actual economic sense to get a bike for commuting if you can. Almost every bike gets decent gas mileage. Even my CBR600RR routinely gets 45 miles per gallon, and even some bikes like the FZ07 can get as high as 60 miles per gallon, and even the supercharged Kawasaki H2 gets like 25 miles per gallon combined. That's Bugatti performance with Honda CRV gas mileage. And number 3 would be the community. The motorcycling community is one of the most inclusive and friendly communities I have ever been a part of, and riding with others has been infinitely more fun than driving with others. I've driven with friends before in separate cars, and there's just such a disconnect from each other. When you're riding, you are right there next to them. You can turn your helmet and look directly at them, gesture to each other, and if you have the Send and Bluetooth comm system, you can actually talk together and have full-on conversations. Also, motorcycle communities are really open to adding more people usually, and if you move to a new area and don't have many friends, motorcycling can be a great way to meet others. Some of my best friends I've met were from riding. There truly is a brotherhood that is formed when riding with others. And there are plenty of giant group ride events out there every year with a whole range of bikes, from $500 project bikes to $25,000 super bikes, all riding in unison. We even have a biker wave that we all do for each other, which is putting 2 fingers down at the ground, which means keep the 2 wheels down, basically saying to each other to be safe. I've been a part of a lot of communities, but none of them have been more rewarding than motorcycling, and my YouTube channel should be evident of that. And number 4 is parking. To add to the practicality of cheaper performance and maintenance and running costs, motorcycles are also more convenient because they just take up less space. If you live in an area that is well congested, then having a motorcycle is a blessing. It's much easier to park your bike when you only need about 6 foot long parking space and around 4 feet wide. This makes parking in a busy parking lot much easier, but also it makes parking at your own house much easier too. You can pull into most garages alongside your car, or you can park it next to your house and throw a cover over it and it will be almost completely unnoticeable. I even know some people that will wheel their bike directly into their house and park it in their living room. Try doing that with your sports car. Also, if you live in an area where you are legally allowed to lane split, then motorcycles will make your morning commute shorter and a lot more enjoyable. It will actually be a practical way to get into the city or go to work if you live somewhere that has a lot of traffic, like LA for instance. And our final reason, number 5, is that riding is simply better than driving. 4 wheels move the body, 2 wheels move the soul. It's tough to really describe the feeling of riding if you've never done it before, but riding gives you a pure feeling of joy and freedom especially. I love cars. My Corvette brings me so much joy and is a blast to drive, but riding is just a different feeling entirely. You get to actually see and experience your surroundings. Cruising down the road, you just feel part of nature and life. It allows you to go deep into your thoughts and can really relieve stress. That whole saying, you never see a motorcycle parked outside a therapist's office, well obviously it's an exaggeration, but it kinda holds true. Riding is a lot of people's therapy, including my own. And when you're riding, you can actually ride with friends and have experiences with them, something that would be almost impossible to experience when you're driving with your friends in separate cars, because the doors and cages separate you from each other just like how it separates you from life. Motorcycles can also give you just pure adrenaline. The sheer acceleration from a bike as it pulls your entire body is a feeling that is just impossible to describe. Also, cornering a bike is incredibly fun and rewarding, and doing tricks like wheelies and stoppies are fun as well. And yes, motorcycling can be dangerous, but life isn't all about being completely safe. It's about experiencing and celebrating the things we enjoy. If you don't ride, then I highly suggest you start your journey. Tomorrow is a promise to no one. You need to go out and enjoy life before it's too late, because we truly are here for such a short amount of time, and life has some of the most amazing things to offer, like motorcycles. I've been toying with the idea of starting a Getting Into Riding series, which would be a series of videos on how to get a new rider from sitting on the computer chair to sitting on a motorcycle seat. I know there are a few YouTube videos of this already, but if some of you are interested in a HeroRR edition of something like that on this channel, then please let me know in the comment section below, and if there's enough interest, I'll do it. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Please stay safe out there and enjoy the ride.
Let me live my life, the one I'd better lead. All the blondes of fantasies, and we looked at them 11 ways. You said, look at me, I looked away, and you wrote the song I wanna play. Alright.